The law is complex, but it doesn't have to be a mystery. We are talking legal literacy, not advice. So don't worry, you're not getting an invoice. I'm Simon Jenga, and welcome to Simon Said. Today we are talking about enduring powers of attorney and who to appoint as your attorney. Now, there's no legal requirements or restrictions on who you can appoint other than they must be at least 20 years old. So that's effectively the only primary restriction on who you can appoint. Beyond that, you've got a really wide scope as to who it could be. There's a few things that I've found in my career of important factors to take into account when you are appointing someone. But first, let's just start with the biggest myth that I hear day in, day out around the appointment of an attorney. Your spouse or partner is not automatically authorized by law to make decisions on your behalf. I'm going to repeat that just to be crystal clear. Your spouse is not automatically allowed to make decisions on your behalf. In practice, there's going to be circumstances where out of necessity, your spouse or family member that's present is going to make decisions on your behalf. And I'm talking about things like up at the hospital, where there's just not the opportunity to wait. When it comes to the person that is legally appointed that has control of that decision-making process, in the absence of enduring powers of attorney, there is no one legally authorized to make decisions as you. Now that seems like maybe it won't be super important because it's obvious who is going to make the decisions for me. I'm going to spit out a couple of scenarios to show how easily that cannot be the case. The first is a couple that have just got married when they're 25. One of them has an accident and the other is in the hospital with them together with the incapacitated spouse's parents. Now those parents might be in their 50s. The spouse is going to be mid-20s. There's a good show that those parents are going to feel like they have some semblance of say in what happens next to their child. No one is being naughty. No one is being deliberately problematic. You've got people that are going to care about this incapacitated person that may have views that differ, and it won't be that there is a legal position around who actually has authority to make those decisions. So that's number one. Number two is at the back end, where you've got you're older and you're maybe in your 50s or even 60s, and you've got one, again, let's assume it's a couple, one person gets incapacitated, their siblings take an express interest, feel like the spouse doesn't actually know them as well as they think they do, feels like the spouse was never a good fit for them and shouldn't be making these decisions. They feel ownership. So again, not necessarily being naughty, not necessarily bad people, people that care about the incapacitated person having different views. Suddenly it's important who is in the hot seat, who is actually able to make those decisions. So we wind back to you as the person having the opportunity to decide who you want to make your decisions for you. Often in a couple scenario, we're going to see that you'll have two people wanting each other to make the decisions. So the main point of contention or the main thinking point becomes, who do you want to be backup? Again, seems unlikely, but the scenarios are you're both in a car crash and incapacitated. Now your backups are stepping in. The first of you has passed away. The second of you loses capacity. Now the backup is having to step in. So it's things that are not immediate, but are likely in the long run, if you lose capacity, that potentially your backup is going to be in the hot seat at some point. So that's definitely worth considering, and really the main point where people get unstuck or delay these documents because they can't figure out who they would want to be as the backup. So what you're looking for, in my opinion, when you're looking at an attorney, is someone that you trust to make decisions as if they are you. So you are putting full faith in their ability to step into your shoes and make decisions on your behalf as if they are you. They're not making decisions as them for you, they are making decisions as you for you. Now, I think it's an important distinction because it's the only time that you are going to be giving such intimate control to someone over your body and over your assets. There's generally no other scenario in your life where you will be giving that broad degree of control in the circumstance where you have lost capacity. So you have no ability to change who they are at that point because you're la-la. So it needs to be someone that you really trust. We're looking primarily at family at that point. People will extend out to friends. One of the things that I always advise people when they're thinking of appointing friends into these roles is to make sure that they discuss it with the friend that they're going to appoint in depth. Everyone that signs on as an attorney or a backup attorney must sign these documents. So the assumption is that they know what they're signing into. Not the case. People sign things all the time without checking them over properly, particularly when the document is not primarily about them. So when we sign these documents, attorneys have no legal obligation to receive independent legal advice. If I prepare documents for a donor, as in the person that is appointing attorneys for them, there is no legal obligation on me to advise the attorney around the implications of them being appointed. So the assumption that the attorney knows what they're getting into is often a false assumption, and it's necessary to make sure you've had the conversation with them, particularly if it's a friend you're appointing. Now, why do I say that about friends and not about family? It's generally because, in my experience, family will stick around even if it's inconvenient, even if it's difficult, even if it causes problems. Friends are more likely to feel torn as to whether they want to stay involved, can stay involved, should stay involved when they are appointed, and then family members start picking at them around what they are and aren't doing, how they are and aren't handling things, the decisions they are or are not making. So it's a big thing to put your friend through, having them appointed, potentially if you lose capacity for a period of time. Critically important to have that conversation, make sure they understand it, because the worst case scenario is that you lose capacity, your friend then turns around and says, actually, this isn't for me, I can't handle this. Suddenly you are left without an attorney, and then the only way of getting someone legally appointed is an application through the court, and at that point, with you not having capacity, it's now everyone else that is deciding who is going to be appointed for you, who is the best fit. And the courts, through legal assistance, are going to be deciding that on your behalf. So making sure that your documents are robust, that the person that you pick understands the job that they are being asked to potentially take on, critically important. Hopefully they never have to take it on and it's all just a moot point. If they do have to take it on, very important that they know what they're getting into. The other critical thing to take into account is the age of the person that you're looking to appoint. So what you don't want to do is necessarily only have attorneys that are older than you, because as you age, they will also be getting older, and it can't be that you are 70 and that you have an 85, 90-year-old appointed as your attorney, because the likelihood that they're going to fall off the perch before you or lose capacity themselves is too high. Also, even if they still have capacity, as we've just talked about, it is a big job, it is a big burden to take on. So putting that onto someone in their 80s and 90s, it can be a massive change, a massive pressure on them. Looking at people your age or younger is going to give longevity to the documents and make it more likely that you're not going to have problems. In the past, we would look at location and really be concerned if there was a situation where people were needing to appoint someone that was overseas. Prior to COVID, we generally took the approach that it was unlikely that appointing someone overseas was going to cause an issue, because if anything happened, they could jump on a plane, come home, look after everything. Even if they couldn't, we've got the technology to be able to communicate with them at a distance. COVID hits, and then suddenly people can't just fly home. Suddenly people are trapped where they are. So it did become more important geographically where your attorney is located. I still tend to take the position that it is more important that you have an attorney that you trust to make decisions, rather than that you've got an attorney that is here, say in Tauranga where we are. There can be difficulties with people being overseas, uncontactable, different time zones, and that is going to affect how well your attorney is able to perform their duties. Ultimately, it's a balancing act. So if you don't have anyone local that you would trust into that role, it's better to have someone at a distance than to not have anyone at all. So those are critical factors to take into account to make sure that you don't avoid doing the documents just because you don't have anyone local to appoint in there with you. All this adds up to is that the people that you're appointing to this role are people you should trust, people who are hopefully your age or younger, and if possible local, but ultimately I think factors 1 and 2 are going to be more important. If you're appointing in friends, special consideration to make sure that they understand what they're getting into. And even if you're appointing in family, better to have the conversation to make sure that they understand what it is that they would be doing to make sure that you get those appointments right. So, all in all, Simon says, don't put off doing these documents because it's hard finding the right people to appoint. Spend the time, figure it out who it is that you would want to appoint, and then proceed with the documents when it is convenient for you without delaying unnecessarily. Thank you for listening in, and to support our channel, if you found this enjoyable, helpful, supporting you in understanding your legal position, then please hit that like button, share this with your friends and family, and make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our latest legal videos. And remember, at LOA Law, we are good lawyers for good people.